Welcome to a night I still can't believe actually happened. It began with fairy lights and a saxophone solo. It ended in sirens. They said it would just be drinks, some harmless toasts, and awkward karaoke. You know, the usual corporate escape act before bonuses and backstabbing. Instead, I stood in 4-inch heels beside the CEO's Tesla, clutching a broken wine glass, watching a man in handcuffs scream my name. I'm Mila, and this is how our office party went completely off script, with an ending that shocked everyone, including me. It started with a peach Bellini. We'd barely stepped into the rented rooftop space when Martina from legal handed me one, already giggling. Mila, you have to try this. It tastes like vacation. It tasted like foreshadowing. The string quartet in the corner was setting the tone, classy, aspirational, just like the email HR sent earlier about reclaiming culture and celebrating resilience. Which meant we survived another quarter of unpaid overtime and sudden layoffs, and they were going to reward us with one drink ticket and shrimp on skewers. I wandered toward the balcony, my silk dress clinging too tightly in the December air, wondering how I ever ended up here, 23 years old and already cynical enough to hate free cocktails. That's when I saw him. Jasper. He was new, which is corporate for dangerously charming and probably someone's nephew. I'd seen him twice in the office kitchen, once microwaving something way too healthy, once offering me the last biscotti with a shrug that made my knees go loose. He saw me and smiled like he'd been waiting. Mila, he said, like it was a line. Didn't peg you for the party type. I'm not, I replied, too fast. But I had a dress and a grudge to nurse. He laughed. It was easy, low, and warm. What's the grudge? Oh, you know, capitalism, I said. And the CFO who thinks I'm still an intern. His smile tilted. Then you're going to love this. Before I could ask what this was, he slipped something into my hand. A silver keycard. Black lanyard. No name. No logo. What is this? The real party, he said. Upstairs. I should have walked away. Should have sipped my drink, found the nearest intern, and taken a blurry selfie by the company logo wall like everyone else. Instead, I looked at the keycard. Then I looked at him. 10 minutes, he whispered. You coming? He left without waiting for an answer. I stood there for 5 full seconds, heart pounding like I'd already said yes. And then I did. The elevator required a pass. His keycard worked like magic. I expected a VIP lounge or some rooftop suite with overpriced whiskey and marketing execs pretending to be DJs. What I got was silence. Floor 27 was empty, dimly lit, cold. It wasn't decorated. It wasn't part of the event. It was storage. Boxes, half-disassembled desks, old monitors stacked in the corners like forgotten soldiers of productivity. Jasper. I called out, suddenly unsure. Back here, his voice came, from behind a stack of chairs. I followed it. I should have turned back. What I found wasn't a party. It was a room. One I'd never seen. Windows sealed shut. A laptop open on a folding table. Jasper stood behind it, his sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, fingers flying across the keyboard. What is this? I asked slowly. He looked at me. You ever wonder where the bonuses go? What? He turned the screen toward me. Excel spreadsheets. Names. Accounts. Transactions I didn't understand until I saw my own name. $0 bonus. Project lead, Mila A. Status, pending termination. The breath left my body. They were going to fire me? I whispered. He nodded. You and 16 others. Quiet layoffs. Before Christmas. No warnings. No cause. My ears were ringing. I stepped back. Why are you showing me this? He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a USB stick. Because we're taking it. I blinked. Taking what? The truth, he said. We're leaking it. All of it. My hands went cold. You're joking, I said. You're not seriously, Jasper. This is illegal. You could go to jail. I will go to jail, he said. Which is why I'm asking you for one thing. What? His eyes met mine, dead serious. Help me get it out of here. We didn't make it out that night. Not clean, anyway. He said it would be easy. slip the USB into the back pocket of his jacket, walk out with the crowd, drop it in the mail to a journalist he knew. But of course, nothing about this was easy. Nothing ever is when you're trying to pull truth out from under a billion-dollar lie. I remember the moment it started to unravel. We were halfway to the elevator when Jasper froze. "Camera," he muttered. They installed one. I followed his gaze. There it was, small, black, ceiling-mounted. Watching. Blinking red. "We're already on it," I said. He nodded. "Then we don't go down. We go up." "What's up?" "Roof," he said. "Signal's cleaner." That's when I saw it, the fear in his eyes. It wasn't reckless anymore. It was desperate. He grabbed my hand. Cold. Firm. "Please, Milla. Just 5 minutes." And God help me, I followed him again. The roof was wind and concrete. A bleak square surrounded by waist-high railings and glowing city lights. The skyline sparkled like it was mocking us. Jasper pulled a hotspot out of his coat. He opened the laptop. Plugged in the drive. "We're sending it now," he said. "Secure drop. No trace. I just need to encrypt." "Stop." My voice surprised both of us. "Milla, we're this close." "No," I said, louder now. "You're close. I'm just the girl you handed a keycard to." "That's not true. You're asking me to blow up my life." "For what?" "A headline." He stood slowly. "You said you had a grudge." "I did. I do. But I didn't say I wanted revenge." He looked away. The wind caught his coat like a cape. For a second, he looked like a villain in a story I hadn't agreed to be in. "It's not about revenge," he said finally. "It's about fairness." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Fairness?" "At a bank." He didn't answer. Below us, the city buzzed on untouched. I took a step back. "Jasper, this isn't a game. These people, they're sharks. You think they won't find out?" He turned the screen toward me again. "It's not just bonuses. They're laundering pension funds. They're erasing employee payouts. They're bankrupting people and writing it off as restructuring." And there it was. Not a grudge. Not a game. Justice. I looked at the screen. At the data. At the digital rot humming in neat rows. My name was there again. But so were others. Dozens. People I'd worked next to, people who'd disappeared after departmental shifts, their smiles still in the company directory, their paychecks nowhere to be found. The wind was sharp on my face. The kind that carries warnings. "You could go to prison," I said quietly. "I know," he replied. "And me?" "You didn't do anything," he said. "You didn't touch the laptop. You didn't send the file." I stared at him. "But I know." He looked at me, then truly looked. And then he said something I'll never forget. "That's the cost of knowing. You don't get to unknow it." He clicked. The file uploaded. It was done. 3 minutes later, the door burst open. Security. Loud voices. Flashlights. Someone shouted his name. Someone else shouted mine. And just like that, the party was over. They tackled him near the satellite dish. I dropped the broken wine glass that had been in my coat pocket since we left the rooftop, something I'd picked up without thinking, something that would look far too suspicious now. When they shoved him against the wall and cuffed his wrists, he didn't scream. But I did. His name. Just once. The sound tore through the night like it belonged to someone else. And that's how it ended. Our year-end party. With an arrest. With truth in the wind. With my name echoing across the rooftop, carrying with it the sound of something breaking. They kept me for 3 hours. Not in a cell, not officially. No handcuffs, no lawyers, not yet. Just a chair in a gray conference room 3 floors below where the incident had happened. That's what they kept calling it, the incident. As if it had been a spilled drink or a power outage, not a leak, not a betrayal, not a truth bomb dropped in the middle of corporate denial. A woman from HR sat with me the whole time. Elise. She had red lipstick, expensive perfume, and a clipboard that stayed suspiciously blank. "Milla," she said gently, "we're just trying to understand what happened tonight." So was I. I kept asking for my coat, but they ignored me. I kept asking if Jasper was okay. That was ignored too. "He's being processed," Elise finally said. "It's very serious, Milla. What he did. and you're in the middle of it. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what I was in. Was I a witness? A suspect? An accomplice? Or just the girl who had followed a pretty face to the roof and ended up on the edge of something she didn't understand? You're not under arrest, she clarified. We just need to clarify a few things. Starting with how long you've known him. 2 weeks, I said. Maybe 3. And he invited you upstairs? No, I said. He didn't invite me. He handed me a keycard and walked away. Her eyes flicked up. And you followed. I nodded. Yes. Why? I could have said curiosity, or boredom, or bad judgment. But the truth? The truth was more dangerous. Because I saw something in him that felt familiar. That low-grade simmer of frustration, the quiet way people like us get overlooked, hardworking, underpaid, invisible to the men who make the rules. I saw that in him. And maybe he saw it in me too. I don't know, I said instead. I just did. Elise scribbled nothing. The pen moved, but the page stayed blank. I knew what this was. I wasn't dumb. They weren't looking for answers. They were looking for a reason to wash their hands of the whole thing. If they could pin it on him and cast me as a naive bystander, maybe the headlines would be kind. Did you touch the laptop? She asked. No. Did you upload the files? No. Did you help him? I hesitated. Elise looked up sharply. Milla? I didn't stop him, I said. She leaned forward. Why not? I swallowed. Hard. Because I saw my name on the list. She sat back. Quiet now. You were going to fire me, I said. Right before Christmas. After 2 years of unpaid weekends and skipped raises. You were going to fire me and not even tell me. That wasn't my department, Elise said quickly. That decision was above me. It always is, I murmured. The silence stretched. Eventually, someone knocked. Elise stood. She said I was free to go for now, but they might circle back with legal. She gave me her card, like I might ever call her again. They gave me my coat at the front desk. My wine glass was gone. Thank God. I stepped out into the early morning dark. The city was quiet. The party lights were off. The rooftop was still, but something in me wasn't. I started walking, unsure where I was going. Somewhere between 5th and Broadway, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. It's out. Every file. Every name. Every number. They can't stop it now. Jay. I stopped walking. He did it. He really did it. I don't know how he got a signal or how he sent that message. Maybe someone helped him. Maybe he had backup plans. I don't know. But I stood there under a dead street lamp, holding that message like it was proof that we weren't crazy, that the system was. And suddenly I remembered something he said. The cost of knowing is that you can't unknow it. And I didn't want to, because this time, knowing felt like power. And something told me they weren't ready for that .view noon the next day. It was everywhere. Not just company-wide. Not just the finance blogs. Everywhere. Hashtag the payroll files was trending. A spreadsheet had been leaked. All right, surgically precise, brutally honest. Employee IDs, department names, salary brackets, bonuses denied, terminations flagged months in advance with code words like reshape and elevate. And worst of all, a section quietly labeled deferred assets recovery, which was just legalese for stealing from the people they already fired. Jasper had dropped a bomb, and the fallout was immediate. Emails flew. The CEO issued a formal statement by 2 p.m. claiming it was a malicious act by a rogue employee. Rogue. As if Jasper had been living in a sewer, not cubicle 4B, with his own coffee mug and a sticky note that said, "Don't touch, even if it's Monday." By 4 p.m., someone from legal tried calling me. I didn't answer. By 6 p.m., they suspended the entire executive team, pending investigation. And by the end of the day, my name was back in the HR system with an unexpected label beside it. On hold, internal inquiry pending. Translation: we don't know what to do with you. And neither did I. I sat in my apartment with the lights off, watching the comments roll in like tidewater. People were angry. Really angry. Employees from other branches, other firms, sharing their own horror stories. Someone started a class action thread. Someone else posted a selfie with the caption, "I've been working 3 jobs since my severance disappeared. Thank you to whoever did this." I wanted to tell them. I wanted to scream it. It was Jasper. It was the boy with the tired eyes and the clean hands. The one who said things like legacy and meant it. But instead, I just sat there. And then the doorbell rang. It was late. Too late. I peeked through the peephole, my heart thudding. It was her. Elise. The HR woman. I opened the door slowly. "Can I come in?" she asked, not unkindly. "Please." She looked different. Not polished. Not smug. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her hair was pulled back with the desperation of someone who hadn't slept. I let her in. She walked straight to my kitchen, like she didn't want to be seen by the windows. "They're trying to bury it," she said, her voice low. "They're saying Jasper was mentally unstable, that he falsified everything." My stomach turned. "But he didn't," she continued. "I've seen the files. He didn't falsify a single number." She turned to me. "I need your help." "Why me?" "Because," she said, "you're the only person left who actually spoke to him, who saw what he was doing. And because," she hesitated, "because I'm not sure I have the courage to do it alone." I stared at her. She took something from her purse and set it on the table. A flash drive. "It's everything I could download before they locked me out," she said. "Internal chat logs. Expense reports. Bonus approvals, redacted for board members, of course." I picked it up. "Elise," I said quietly, "you're still part of them." Her face crumpled. "Not anymore." She sat down, suddenly smaller. "Do you know how many people's salaries I signed off on without asking why the numbers didn't match? Do you know how many exit interviews I processed while someone whispered cut her before Q4 in my ear? I didn't say anything, because I didn't know." She looked up at me, and her voice cracked. "Do you think he'll be okay?" It took me a moment to realize she meant Jasper. "I don't know," I said. "They arrested him. They'll try to make an example. Then don't let them." That's when I realized. They weren't just trying to erase him. They were trying to erase the truth. And I was the last thread holding it together. It started with a court date, but it ended with a camera. 3 weeks after the leak, Jasper finally appeared in front of a judge, shackled, tired, wearing the same calm expression I remembered from that rooftop, like he had already made peace with the price. The courtroom was half full, mostly press, a few former employees, me, sitting in the back row, hands clenched in my coat pockets, replaying every second of that night in my head. They charged him with unauthorized access, corporate theft, breach of confidentiality, and a dozen other things I didn't understand but recognized as punishment for telling the truth. His lawyer argued for whistleblower protection. The company's lawyer argued for blood. And Jasper? He didn't say a word. Until the judge looked directly at him and asked the question I'd been asking myself since the night we met. "Why did you do it?" He stood up. Slowly. No theatrics. No prepared statement. Just this. Because they thought no one was watching. That was it. One sentence. But in that courtroom, it rang louder than any accusation. I couldn't breathe. Afterward, outside the courthouse, the media swarmed. His face made headlines: whistleblower, hacker, traitor, hero. The words changed depending on which outlet was paying the bills. And me? I stayed in the background. Until one reporter, young, quick-eyed, too fast for PR to stop, turned her camera straight at me and said, "Weren't you involved?" I froze. I felt every version of me collapse into that moment. The quiet assistant, the overlooked analyst, the girl on the rooftop holding a glass she didn't remember picking up. I could have said no. I could have walked away. But I thought of the others, of the woman in payroll who was fired after 10 years with no severance. Of the man in IT who vanished after asking one too many questions. Of the interns who whispered their names into nothing. I looked at the camera, and I said, yes, I was there. I saw what they did, and I'm not afraid to say it. There was silence after that. Sharp, cold, heavy, and then a second voice, someone else in the crowd. I was laid off with no notice. Then another. My pension's gone. Then another. I helped build that company. They erased me. Within minutes, The crowd had turned. Not angry, not chaotic, united. They weren't asking for revenge. They were asking for truth, for dignity, for someone to finally see them. That night, the footage aired on 3 networks. My face, my words, and behind me, a rising chorus of others who had been invisible for too long. My inbox exploded. Some hate, some threats, but mostly gratitude. And then at 3:12 a.m., a message from a number I didn't know. You didn't run. Thank you. Jay. I read it 3 times, then typed 1 word in reply. Always. And then I closed my laptop, sat in the dark, and let the fear in. Because now the world knew my name. And that's when the real fight began. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor of my apartment, back against the wall, flash drive in one hand, phone in the other. I thought about Jasper. I thought about the files. I thought about the moment I saw my name in that spreadsheet and realized I was never going to be safe if I stayed silent. In the morning, I did what he would have done. I uploaded everything, not to a journalist. Not this time, to everyone. An open drive link. No password. No gatekeeping. No spin. I sent it to every employee in the company, every contractor, every assistant, every intern who'd ever worked a weekend and been told you're lucky to be here. I posted it anonymously. I said, if you've ever wondered where your bonus went, here it is. If you've ever sat across from a manager who told you next quarter, read this. If you've ever felt erased, this is proof that you were never crazy. They just wanted you quiet. And then I turned off my phone. I left the city for 3 days. I walked through small towns with coffee shops that didn't have Wi-Fi. I watched the sun rise over places where no one knew my name. I breathed air that didn't smell like ambition. When I came back, the world had already changed. The CEO resigned. So did the CFO. So did Elise. But not in disgrace. She gave a statement brave, measured, clear. We need to rebuild this culture from the inside out, she said. And we have to start by listening to the ones we tried to silence. They didn't mention Jasper, but someone else did. A journalist found his case, dug deeper, and wrote a piece titled, "The Leaker Was Right." And just like that, his name stopped being a scandal. It became a symbol. A month later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. No signature. Just a short line on a clean white card. You turned the lights on. Thank you. Jay. I cried when I read it. Not because I was sad. Because I was finally free. I never went back to the company. I didn't need to. Instead, I started something of my own. A small organization. Quiet. Focused. A place for whistleblowers, truth tellers, and the ones who got fired for asking the wrong questions. We called it Thread. Because sometimes the truth is all tangled up, and you just need one brave person to start pulling. Sometimes that person is you. Sometimes that person was always you, and you just didn't know it yet. Now, when I tell people about that night, they still ask the same question. Weren't you scared? And the truth is, yes. I was terrified. But I was more afraid of going back to being invisible. More afraid of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. More afraid of staying quiet, knowing what I knew. So I spoke. And I kept speaking. And somewhere out there, Jasper is still listening. This is the last part.